Welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, May 11th, 2023. I'm Rochelle Batiste with the details. One man is dead after a 16-footer grey and black boat with a 40 HP engine capsized off Springhead Bequia sometime after 4 p.m. yesterday, Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. The deceased, Cameron Alves of Bequia, was reportedly fished out of the water this morning by one of the SVG Coast Guard vessels. SVG-TV News understands that a group of fishermen from Bequia went fishing yesterday and encountered difficulties at sea. Investigations into the boating accident is ongoing, and SVG-TV News will bring you further information as it comes to hand. The airport service charge will be reverted to $100 EC or $40 US as of June 1st, 2023. To promote regional travel during the COVID-19 pandemic, the airport service charge was reduced from $100 EC to $50 EC. In his budget address on January 9, 2023, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology, Camilo Gonzalez, announced that the service charge will go back to $100 EC as travel restrictions internationally and regionally have been rolled back and persons are traveling more freely. On Wednesday, the Argyle International Airport said the Airport Service Charge Act of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been amended and gazetted to make way for the change, which will take effect on June 1st, 2023. Assistant Project Manager on the Port Modernization Project, Linsky Douglas, is assuring residents of Argyle, Brighton and Diamond on the eastern side of the country, where the dredging is taking place offshore for material to be used to fill 16 acres of reclaimed land at the port project site in capital Kingston, that the process is not exposing these communities to coastal erosion or any wave action. Douglas was on WeFM last Sunday providing an update on the multi-million-dollar project, the second largest capital project in this country's history.
That the people within Brighton, Diamond, Argyle, the East Coast understand that the talk of any sandbar or sandbank protecting them from the waves is a machination of the mind.
Okay.
It has not been factually found. It did not show up on the geophysical and things. So the government has not, and I repeat, the government has not authorized any destruction of any sandbar, sandbank, underwater block wall that act as a last line of defense for the population along that coast. I told another interviewer, right, that waves don't operate like our mind sometimes. So the waves ain't gonna be coming from the from the Atlantic Ocean, Joel, right? And when it reached to Brighton,
skip
no, not skip. It's the sandbar. I decided to jump over it and calm down itself, right? Wherever the wave energy is coming from, it has to be dissipated somewhere. It has to be dissipated on the coast.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. On the shore. So the people in Brighton, Diamond, and so on, don't worry.
And Bay and other.
We're not moving. There's a serious developmental work and engineering.
In terms of effects on the Argyle International Airport and other infrastructure on the eastern side of the island, including houses, Douglas said an independent assessment was done by the German University of Technology on what might happen to the coastline given the near-shore removal of material in the area. He said the findings was clear and the dredging scheme will not have any effects on the coastal erosion in the area.
They did their studies and their conclusions were, one, the dredging scheme, because of its offset, the water depth at which it is going, its geometry and all of that, will not increase the significant wave height under normal circumstances and under extreme circumstances to result in an exacerbation of coastal erosion processes. The dredging scheme will also not impact the sedimentology, right? Sedimentology is important because people say, okay, but it's sandy beaches and the government moving sand. Now the sand that we're moving got there because of a particular transport mode. It came down on the currents, right? And it occurred outside of the zone for the similar sand that would come down on longshore drift and so on to contribute to beach building.
So it's outside of that.
Two different sets of sand we're talking about.
Okay.
So I need to tell you that removing the the 1/10, because we're removing 1.17 million cubic meters of over 10 million cubic meters of sand. So we're leaving back 90%. When they tell you removing that, we mash up the beaches and so on.
2,000 feet out.
Two different kind of processes.
So where the sand coming from in the first place?
The sand coming from up north.
Meaning?
When the rivers, the Raboka and
River.
Yeah, the dry rivers up north come down. That material goes into the sea. Quite naturally, the way our material move, the larger material tend to drop out.
Yes.
And then drop out earlier, because the currents may not have enough energy to drag them along. So they drop those out. And the finer continue to go until it reaches point of dropping out of the current.
And settlement.
You just answer.
On the reclamation process taking place at the port project site in Kingstown, Douglas said this is being done under the category of what is termed as engineered fill.
Engineered fill can be a wide spectrum. In this case, based on the methodology for, let's say, compaction. Now, these guys have to compact this material from level down to 30 meters, because
they can guys.
Yes, because the material that is coming from Argyle has to be compacted, and this existing seabed in Kingston also has to be compacted. And you can't do that through stone. So that's what's happening in Pigeon. What you're seeing manifesting there was the manner in which the project was designed, and all the applicable methodologies to move it forward.
But Leslie, just from what Pigeon said, initially the Kingston reclamation, they dropped the boulders in first and created that fence. So you get the ring of what thing, and you fill in afterwards.
Yes.
But that is not what is taking place now.
No. But it makes it inferior.
No. Just run the methodology.
It's a difference in methodology. And each approach has its own science and processes and equipment.
And residents of the Central Leeward community of Layu came out in their numbers last evening at the Layu Government School for an important consultation on the proposed Jackson Bay Development Project held at the Layu Government School. The plans of the development were outlined by Finance Minister Camilo Gonzalez and Area Representative Orlando Brewster. Jackson Bay has been earmarked to benefit from a $1 million EC enhancement project funded by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Addressing the consultation, Minister Brewster explained why the project and the development of Jackson Bay is important for the community and the people of Central Leeward.
As I know, Rutland Vale now used to be coconut. But you pass there now, you hardly could get a coconut, because it has been taken over by houses, many houses, beautiful houses, as a matter of fact, some of the best in the country, I would say. And the beachfront here in Layu, we have seen significant development. As a matter of fact, in 2006, I think it was around September 2006, we had the opening of the Layu waterfront. And I don't know if the youngsters would know this, but many of the older folks would know what it was like before we had the waterfront in that area. Now, as pretty as it may look, it is not there for aesthetic purposes. That project, which was done by World Bank and the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, cost approximately $5.7 million. And we had significant problems there. We had a gas station there by Mr. Dillinger. We had a couple of shops there. I remember Pepe used to have a shop there on the side.
And Minister Brewster used the opportunity to share a bit on the rich history of Jackson Bay.
Now, Jackson Bay, and it is not named after Chinese Jackson, as we know up the road, but Jackson Bay got its name originally from the Jackson Estate, which was headed by one Mr. Jackson. And we would know that this area was predominantly a farming area before we got the school here, the community center, the clinic, and so on. It was predominantly an estate area headed by, as I mentioned, Mr. Jackson. Now, Mr. Jackson had the estate for many years. He was one of the first owners of the estate here in Layu. And after his death, his tomb was placed, and for those of you who are from Layu, in the area where Altis or Miss Young is living. It was an area known as Floodgate. And the place has developed so much that we don't even remember how it was before. But in the area of Floodgate, and I'm glad the youngsters are here too because it's an important part of the history of Layu. In the area of Floodgate, it was a known bathing area where a lot of youngsters used to go. There was once a water wheel there, and you know what a water wheel is, that they used back in the day to turn whatever they're doing on the estate.
The Jackson Bay project will involve its cleanup and beautification, the establishment of amenities for visitors and vendors, facilities for fisherfolk, and the installation of crossings and river defenses. In other news now, we hear that the Ministry of Agriculture is working towards a diversified production platform here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is according to Minister of Agriculture Supporter Caesar on NBC Radio Face-to-Face program on Wednesday.
We no longer have a single monocrop type of situation where it is only cane, or it is only arrowroot, or it is only bananas. We have a situation whereby we have a banana subsector, so that the banana farmers will continue to farm. We have persons who are doing mixed farming, very diverse. Some persons who are doing some bananas, some dasheen, some tanya, some meadows, some ginger. You have persons who are into horticulture, some persons who are in production of bees. Also, you have persons who are expanding in the area of livestock production. So what we have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines now is more mixed farming, whereby we are encouraging our farmers not to focus on a single commodity, but we have provided very important markets through the food terminal markets that we have in the different areas. I'm aware that there are entrepreneurs who are buying on a daily basis in Rosebank on the leeward side, and the persons who are also purchasing in Lauders on a day-to-day basis, and very soon it will be expanding up to Landley Park, where we have the palletization center, and other areas will be opening whereby farmers can take their produce and be marketed.
Minister Caesar said with the current dry spell, he anticipates that in the upcoming weeks, the cost for the produce to be exported will be increased.
So I am aware that last week, the price for a sack of dasheen, 100-pound sack, was bordering $200. And, this is a price that the cost of production is for a sack of dasheen is about $95 thereabout. But because there's a scarcity now because of the dry spell, we are seeing an increase in the prices. Also, I'm getting calls from several markets in the U.S., markets that we had negotiated, and they were locked into a particular price. They're saying to us now that they can't get the quantities and they can't get it at the prices which were negotiated. And quite naturally, they have to understand and they are appreciating the fact that the dry weather, as we call it, is having a significant and negative impact on production and productivity. We are seeing significant expansions, however, in the Maraqua area, the Greggs area, and some parts of Georgetown, and some persons are utilizing systems for irrigation. And this is a conversation that we continue in the Ministry of Agriculture, because irrigation is of first importance during this period. And there are livestock farmers also, some who have scaled down the quantities that they have because they are grappling with the significant reduction in the feed available for the animals. And we're going to work with the suppliers of the feed to see the best that
On the Farm Labor Support Program, Minister Caesar said they are encouraging farmers to use this period to prepare their lands for production.
So that when we have the rainfall, that you will be able to put in the production and you don't have to spend that time to go and to prepare the lands. I just returned a week and a half ago from Vietnam, where I was engaged in a global conversation as to how agri-food systems would have to thrive on a global platform where there is climate change. And what has already taken place, my brother, in some areas of the world is that you don't only have zonal planting, some places where you plant and some places you don't plant, but you also have periods of the year whereby, based on a prediction and analysis by those persons who are studying the weather and the climate, they will say it's not advisable to plant in this particular area for the next 3 or 4 months. Because if you do not have a system whereby you are using the cutting edge technology to ensure that you are able to produce in these harsh conditions, you will not be able to get a return on your investment.
At least 10 different species of birds from 36 were identified during a birding exercise conducted yesterday at Linley Valley in Rose Hall by the Forestry Service Division. The activity forms part of activities being held to commemorate Caribbean Endemic Bird Festival, which runs from April 22nd, Earth Day, to May 22nd, International Day of Biodiversity. Educated members of the media who was on the tour on the land bird monitoring program was Forestry Officer Casmus McLeod, who said various species and subspecies of endemic land birds were identified, recorded, and lodged into a global database for birds known as eBirds.
And I know some persons would have been doing birding and would have been submitting counts to the eBird app. From that particular training, we were taught how to use the eBird app to do our surveying of birds. And basically what we do, we collect our birds in terms of birding, and we upload the information on the eBird and we submit it to eBird, which is basically an international platform really, where persons around the world normally would submit bird counts. So today, as part of the land bird monitoring program, there's right now we are basically celebrating from Earth Day, which is May 22nd, to Biodiversity Day, which is April and June. April 22nd, which is Earth Day. That's when the process started, and it would culminate in May 2022, which is International Day of Biodiversity. And during that period, there are a number of activities that are organized around the Caribbean region. In fact, there are around 20 countries that are involved in this activity.
McLeod noted that the bird exercise came on the heels of a very important training workshop held in January this year at the Botanical Gardens, in which forestry officers were trained to identify land birds using PROALAS protocol.
Today is a very important day for us, forest officers. As you all would have remembered, in January of this year, 2023, we had a very important workshop at the Botanical Gardens where we would have learned about the identification of land birds using the PROALAS protocol. And basically, the purpose of that exercise would have been to build our capacity as a department in the identification of land birds. Since that activity concluded, by way of continuation, we would have developed a birding group within the forestry department for those persons who would have participated in the training. And that, from that birding group, we would have developed a platform where we share information on a regular basis as to birds that we would have identified within our particular communities. And then we would have had the opportunity to basically rely on the expertise of Forest Supervisor Glenroy Games and Lishra Kolzak to assist us in basically correlating our findings to make sure that the birds that we are identifying is actually the birds that we know. And basically by helping doing that, we would have been able to build our capacity.
Educated members of the media on how the different types of birds are being identified was Forestry Officer Glenroy Games, who said that the Linley Valley in Rose Hall was selected not only because of its close proximity to the volcano, but it's an ideal location where some special birds nest.
Part of the CEBF, which is Caribbean Endemic Bird Festival, which is part of what we got the grant for, to go out and do monitoring of birds, but in particular the endemic birds. And in St. Vincent and Grenadines, everybody knows the St. Vincent parrot as a national bird. But a lot of persons don't know things like the Western warbler, which is the next bird that is really, really, really special to us. And we have those two major birds as endemics, and we have approximately 16 other sub-endemic species. So that gives us a total of about 15, 16 birds that we are going to try to see if we can get them today. This location was chosen not only because of the close proximity to the the Lasufer volcano, but also because one of the birds, the Antillean euphonia, has only been recorded here for many, many years. However, it's already spread into other areas like South Rivers and so on. So we're gonna get the opportunity, hopefully, to capitalize and view that bird. And it's going to be special for most persons because most persons would not have had the opportunity to see it. Just to say that we have a couple of more important days surrounding birding. And if you notice, my cap says Birds Caribbean. That's part of the organization that we are assisting with doing all of this information gathering.
And members of the Forestry Service Division visited different schools on the North Leeward side of the island today, educating students on the different birds that can be found in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The schools that were visited includes Rose Hall Primary and the Chumaka Ontario Secondary, where the forestry officers conducted a mini exhibition on birding materials. The exercise also forms part of the celebration leading up to World Earth Day on May 22nd. Forestry Officer Glenroy Games explained to the students more about the different aspects of birding and the Endemic Bird Festival.
Saturday the 13th, we have World Big Day, and what that means is that there are teams and people come out every single year in different countries across the globe, and they monitor birds and they place it into a database which is called eBird, and it's shared among the entire population of the world. Now, which means that you are and I, who are citizens of the world, we share what we have so the rest of the world could experience it and be part of it. From a tourism standpoint, is very important because when people see what you have, that's a free opportunity for you to showcase to the world what you have. And from my experience, because I'm an avid birder, we find that people come from as far as Switzerland, Europe, you name it, to St. Vincent to bird. And birding is one of the top developing tourist attractions in the world today. That's number one, birding. So, especially, we're now celebrating our Endemic Birds Festival, and because of this reason, the presentation should have really been purely on that, but because it's the first time we come into the school, we want to make sure that we set the ground so you could know more.
In other local news now, we hear that Donnet O'Neill was unanimously returned as president for a second year of Sir Optimus International St. Vincent and the Grenadines at the club's 36th annual general meeting held on Saturday, April 29, 2023. Other members voted in to serve on the board of directors were Vice President Jane Farrell, Secretary, Janelle Ogaro, Treasurer, Christine De Silva, Program Action, Shannon Durant, Samuel, Membership and Safeguarding, Andrea Games Moher's Governance and Development, Renee Baptiste Communications, Lavinia Gunduit, Ikomola Laborde continuing as immediate past president. Una Thompson and Samantha Cordes continue in their position as Assistant Treasurer and Assistant Secretary, respectively. Renee Baptiste continues to serve as the club's representative at the original body, Sir Optimus International Caribbean Network, in the capacity of President-elect. In her President's report, O'Neill noted that despite it being a challenging year for many of their sister clubs internationally, which saw a reduction in membership and minimal growth, Sir Optimus International St. Vincent and Grenadines was able to attract 6 new members and develop additional programs and projects, having focused mainly on the volcanic emergency relief during the previous 2 years. Her motto for the year, nothing worthwhile comes easily. Continuous work and hard work is the only way to accomplish results that last. While thanking the executive and club members for their support during the year, O'Neill also reminded members that volunteerism is about dedicating time to connect and assist with the many club activities that make an impact on the community. 2 noteworthy events were highlighted during the AGM. The club received an award from Sir Optimus International Caribbean Network for the most impactful work in the Caribbean network during 2021-2022, when over 3,000 lives benefited from the club's emergency relief efforts during and after the eruptions of La Soufrière volcano. Another important development for the local club was its incorporation as a non-profit organization in February of this year.